Good day, everyone. We are happy to be with you today with our next webinar in 2025-26 series. And today you are for a special treat. And I know that most of the time I will say that you are for a special treat, but today is really, really special. And before we start, let me just give you a couple of slides from my end to show you and who we are, what we do, and how we can support you in your entrepreneurial journey. So before we jump into our subject today, I would like to go over a couple of rules. So please introduce yourself in the chat. We always like to learn more about the people that are in the chat, and we want to know what it is that you want to learn. What are the other topics that we may want to bring to you and stuff like that. So use Q&A for your questions as we go with the webinar, and a question will pop in your mind. Put it in the Q&A right away. We will do our best to answer all of the questions at the end of this webinar. And this webinar is going to be recorded. So if you want to rewatch it and there is something that you didn't understand and you want to dive deeper into it, you will be able to do it. If you like the webinar and you feel that it is something that you want to share with your audience, you will be able to do it. So you will get the recording shortly after the presentation. So before we dive into it, right? So Stuttgart Center for Entrepreneurship. Our mission is to ignite entrepreneurial spirit within every University of Manitoba student. And our goal is to show you that entrepreneurship can be a viable career path. And today's guest speaker is going to be a great example that entrepreneurship is universal and is applicable to each one of us. So we are doing a couple of different things in order to get entrepreneurship closer to you. And as part of it, we have our webinar series. We're working very hard to get top-notch speakers, the most interesting people to speak about their journeys, to share their experiences, give you tips and tricks and do's and don'ts. So please check out the lineup. RSVP for everything you want to see. And if you cannot make it, it's not a big deal. You will enjoy the recording that you're going to get in your email after that. Something that I wanted to highlight, we are starting to get really ready for our Stuttgart New Venture Championships. It is a 3-day high-energy business plan competition, international business plan competition that we are going to host at Fairmont Hotel at last weekend of April. When we bring together students from different universities across North America to compete and bring their ideas. Why would you want to participate in it? We have over $72,000 in cash prize monies. You can build valuable connections. You never know who is your next co-founder is going to be, or who is going to call you to become their next co-founder. You will engage with judges that are otherwise not really accessible to you in a regular life, and you will get their perspective on your venture, and you will get this valuable feedback. And at the end of this event, we are going to have a pretty fun closing reception at Fort White Alive, and we are all looking for it. So please check out this QR code or reach out to us and learn more about New Venture Championship. You have time to apply. If you are not ready for competition, but you still want to actively participate in it, we are always looking for great volunteers. You are going to get most of the perks of being in the competition, minus the stress of being, in the pitch. And you are going to connect with people. You're going to connect with founders and the judges. And if it is something that is interesting to you, please send an email to Amy Jones. She is our events manager, and she will be in touch with you and will find a good role for you. Something else that we are very proud of is we are running our How to Start a Side Hustle course. Currently, we are running cohort 4. It is a great success. We have some great results from our participants. It is a 6-week online workshop on the evenings. And during these 6 weeks, we are teaching you how to take your idea and convert it into profitable side gig. So if you are interested in exploring that and you have an idea for a side gig and you just don't know how to do it, that is exactly the program for you. Check it out, scan this QR code, apply, and you are going to get into our cohort 5 that is coming soon. New to University of Manitoba, we brought Inactus back to University of Manitoba, and we are very excited about it. Inactus is a student-led organization that creates a real-world impact by taking your idea and launching into the world. You're getting to work with like-minded people. You are getting to build your skill sets that you can use later in your careers. And it is your opportunity to become a part of a great community of like-minded people that are caring about environment, caring about society, and want to have a greater impact. So please join us, scan this QR code. We are always looking for great people. And even though we just started, we already have our first achievement. One of our team, newly created teams, just got funding from National Bank of Indigenous Inclusion Projects Accelerator, and they're going to have $2,500 to work on their idea and the project, so they will be able to compete with it later in the local and national competitions. So once again, it's a great initiative. You should check it out and participate in it. And finally, Startup Coach Program. It is a free program for every University of Manitoba student, where we are taking you from wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey and trying to push you forward. If you have an idea and you don't know how to validate it, come and see us. If you know that idea is good and you are struggling with financing or business planning, come and see us. If you are super curious about entrepreneurship, but you don't really know how to start, come and see us. We have the in-person and online one-on-one coaching, but I will encourage you to jump on a fast lane call every Thursday morning. It's a very low commitment. It is on a positive vibe. We will have a chat. We will see what's up, and we will identify your next steps. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to our guest speaker today. When I say entrepreneur, many people will think about a businessman, business background, numbers, finances, and stuff like that. And it couldn't be further from who we are going to have in front of us today. So Letitia is a PhD in English literature, and she is a successful female entrepreneur that is coming from liberal arts. And today she's going to share a little bit about her story and how she came from poetry to business. So let me stop sharing my screen and give the stage to you, Letitia.
Thanks so much, Ben. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here today. My name is Letitia Henville. My pronouns are she and her. And it's a privilege for me to be joining you from the traditional ancestral unceded territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe. I'm a settler and child of immigrants, and it's a privilege for me to live and work on stolen Indigenous land. As you may have guessed from the title of today's talk, I have a PhD in poetry in late 19th century, really terrible poems. I finished my PhD about 10 years ago, and since then I've spent most of my time editing, academic writing, and doing a little bit of freelance writing myself. I've been full-time in this role since January 2023. My editing business is called Writing Short is Hard. You can see it on the slide there. And I've prepared around 15, 17 minutes introduction for our conversation today. after which we'll have time for open discussion. So we'll have around maybe 25, 30 minutes to answer any questions you may have. Please do leave them in the Q&A box for me. Here is my plan of action for our time together today. I'd like to share with you what I do in my job, what process took me here, the series of steps, and then I've got maybe 5 high-level recommendations for people who might be thinking of pursuing a similar path. So I am a full-time freelance editor of academic writing. I get hired by universities and individual faculty members, by which I mean like your profs. And my job is to help them to produce really high quality academic documents that they're writing largely for one another. So journal articles, tenure dossiers, and research grant applications. I spend most of my time editing research grant applications. I don't know if you've seen this little GIF before. This is a shrimp running on an underwater treadmill. Sometimes this GIF is used to criticize academic research, like, why would anyone need to know how fast a shrimp can run, is the joke. This study was from 20 years ago, maybe a bit more than 20 years ago, and the study looked into how climate change affects marine life, and specifically the ability of shrimp like this shrimp to fight infections. And because some scientists 20 years ago put this individual shrimp on this tiny treadmill and studied it, observed it, made observations, analyzed those observations, because of that work, we know more about how this species is responding to climate change, which in turn impacts the health and safety of the seafood that a lot of people eat, the animals that we eat that seafood as well, which means like if this shrimp can't successfully fight a bacterial infection and I eat a bunch of shrimp, or I eat a fish or a bear that has eaten a bunch of infected shrimp, that's really bad for me. And so the point I'm trying to make is like we can make fun of a shrimp running on a treadmill, but that's what scientific research is. It is very small, very specific questions. And my job is to help researchers to get the money to buy the tiny treadmill, to acquire the number of shrimp they need to run on the treadmill, to hire research assistants to observe the shrimp's activities and make notes and analyze those notes. Somebody wrote in the chat, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing how literature can turn into entrepreneurship. I really don't work on literature. I'm so sorry. I work on descriptions of people who want to put shrimp on treadmills. This is a random week. This is my time tracking data from about a month ago, the week of September 28th to October 4th. You can see that I worked 5 days that week, and I worked on average 5 hours a day. I put in a lot of hours on the Monday and the Friday, and I took the Tuesday and Saturday off. This is really normal for me to have a schedule that works like this, where some days I'm doing a ton of work and some days I'm not, and where I'm taking random days off. This inconsistency is normal for the kind of work that I do, and it's my preference. It means if I'm having an off day, if I'm really tired, if I had insomnia the night before, if I want to meet a friend for coffee, I can take that Thursday off and it's no problem for my employment. There's also a pie chart on the right there. You can see that pie chart represents the proportion of my 24 hours and 34 minutes and 36 seconds that I spent working. So I worked on 4 projects in this specific week. The big green one, the smaller red one, the smaller orange one, the smaller green one, those were my percentage of my time spent on the different projects. And then this little tiny purple sliver is the non-billable work that I did, my unpaid work. Presumably, I spent a few minutes sending out some invoices that week because it would have been the end of the month. But So the little purple slice that you see there is the activities that I have to do to keep my business running. I wanted to give you a contrast. This is what a more difficult week looks like in my schedule, in my life. August and September are the busiest months of my year. And so in this week, I work every day. I worked between 4 and 6.5 hours per day. And if you look at the pie chart on the right, you can see that I worked on 17 different projects over these 34 hours and 41 minutes. So what I'm hoping you can conclude from looking at this chart is that there are busy periods in my life. There are periods in my year where I don't have weekends off. And if you look at the pie chart, you can imagine that project management and time management might also be important skills for me to have to do my job well. So I spend most of my time editing, and when I'm editing, I spend most of my time supporting profs with applications for research funding. I do some other things in my work. I have these different courses that I teach. Most of them are asynchronous online courses, but the first one, Becoming a Better Editor of Your Own Work, I run that once a year for an 8-week live synchronous course. So only 8 weeks of my year is that teaching. It's a small percentage of what I do, but it's part of what I do. I also do a little bit of writing. I am enjoying doing more writing as I get more established in my career. This screenshot is a monthly column that I write for a magazine called University Affairs. University Affairs, I believe, is free for anyone who has a university affiliation in Canada, so you can get it, the paper edition, mailed to your house, or you can read it online. This is an advice column that I write, and it gets published once a month. And this is how most of my clients find out that I exist. So this is marketing. It's specifically content marketing. That's my primary strategy. Content marketing in my world means tell everybody all of your secrets for free, and maybe they will then hire you to do stuff. So summary, what I do for the most part is I get emails with Word documents, and I read those documents. I edit them to make them work better for their very specific niche audience and their very specific niche context. And then I email those documents back to the author. Sometimes I do other things, but mostly I am sitting at home reading and editing Word documents. The next question, naturally, I think, is how did I find this work and how did I get good enough at it that people pay me to do it, even though my marketing policy is giving away all of my secrets for free? Well, the very first thing that I did was I injured my back very badly on a camping trip. This is not career advice. I do not recommend that you injure your back, but it's what I did. And that back injury meant that I was in really intense physical pain for a long time, for about 2 or 3 years. And that meant that I burned out really badly. I was really depressed. I was in a lot of physical pain. I can smile about it now, but it was a very difficult time in my life. I finished my PhD in 2015. I picked up and moved across the country. I watched a lot of Star Trek in this time. My mental and physical health were very bad, and Star Trek is really great. But this is not career advice. I'm just telling you what happened. Here is the thing that I do actually recommend as actual career advice. I did a lot of informational interviews. Informational interviews are when you find somebody's name and their email address and you shoot them an email and you say, would you be willing to spend 20 minutes with me drinking a coffee over a video conference or in person so that I can ask you questions about your job and your career? So I did these informational interviews. I talked to a lot of strangers who I had no connection with. I asked them questions about what they do, And then I spent a good bit of time journaling, making notes, reflecting on what I was told, and thinking about whether the jobs I was learning about, the types of work I was learning about in those conversations would suit my personality, my interests, how I enjoy spending my time. So 2015, that summer, was a very difficult summer, but I spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people. I learned about different kinds of career paths that were available to me. I decided the one that I wanted to pursue, and then I used the information that I acquired from those informational interviews to work first in a temporary role for about 6 months, and then I just walked in to a great job in an area that I wanted 6 months, very close to 6 months to the day after defending my PhD. Uh, if you get absolutely anything at all from today's talk, if you're disappointed to learn that I don't edit literature and so are not interested, then I still want, I'm making an assumption there, I still want you to know that informational interviews are a really great strategy to learn more about what kinds of careers might suit you. Personally, I consider myself a bit of a magpie. I see a shiny thing and I say like, oh, so shiny, I'm interested. I would like that thing. So I see a cool job and I'm like, yeah, I would love to be a natural geographic photographer. That would be great. And so because I'm interested in everything, I used this strategy to narrow my many interests and locate the subset of interests that actually suit my personality and how I enjoy spending my time. So if you haven't already taken a screenshot, I recommend you take a screenshot. This is a 2016 article from the Harvard Business Review. The article is called How to Get the Most Out of an Informational Interview. This is my recommended reading for you. It's my one big takeaway I would like to offer to everyone in the call. So I worked for 3 years at UBC, the University of British Columbia, where my job was to help faculty members to win research grant applications. This was the same kind of work that I now do, but I used to do it not as an entrepreneur. I did it for a small department, did that job part-time, 4 days a week. And because I was only working 4 days a week, I still earned enough money to pay my rent, but I had the luxury of that one day a week to slowly build my business. So in those 3 years, I spent a lot of time learning how to be really good at my job. I took classes, I read books about editing, I read books about grant applications and academic writing. I started writing my advice column in this time. I continued interviewing people. I joined a professional association called Editors Canada. I also did therapy to recover from the burnout and physical therapy to recover from the physical pain. But I also spent a lot of time really making sure that I knew how to be a great editor. 2019, I changed jobs within UBC. I went into a totally different role doing student support for graduate students, but I stayed part-time. I stayed at 4 days a week, and I continued to slowly build my solo editing business on the side of that 4 day a week job. Then in 2023, I left UBC so that I could be full-time on my own, doing my own thing. And I get questions when I talk about my career. I get questions from people asking me things like, I'm surprised you left the security of a job at a university to go out on your own. But I had spent all these years, 6 years, incrementally building my business, building a client base, learning how to be great at what I do. And so now I work with like 40 or 50 different clients every year. And there is security, like financial security, in having 40 to 50 clients a year. Because if I have a problem with one of them, if one of them decides they don't like how I do my job, if I decide I don't like working for them, it's no big deal. We can part ways and I still have 39 or 49 other clients who I can work with. But if you're in a regular job and somebody doesn't like you, somebody in a position of authority doesn't like how you do your work, or if you don't like them, you don't have 39 other sources of income to draw on. So for me, being an entrepreneur, being a freelancer, gives me more job security, just of a different type. This is what growing my business has looked like financially in dollar terms. This is my gross income from my business. So this is not net, this is gross. And you can see, even though I haven't given you the precise dollar figures, you can see that my income went up a lot in the year of 2023. So my first year I went full-time freelance, my income went up a lot. 2024, there's a big dip in my income. I went to Tahiti for a month. I went to Wales for another month, and you definitely earn less money when you are spending all your time eating fresh pineapples and trying to talk to a field of Welsh sheep. The sheep do not pay you for your time, and so you earn less money, but maybe that's something that's worth doing. I wanted to show you this series of steps for a few reasons. Reason one is that I wanted to emphasize that you're allowed to have shifts and turns in your career. Sometimes people who don't have a lot of career experience think of the career path as a ladder and think that you get to make choices necessarily. A ladder is a metaphor for like continuously moving up in what leadership or responsibility or income. And what you're looking at with these little 5 graphics is not a ladder. It's not even a path of any type. Um, I think stuff happened in my life that was in my control. I chose to get a PhD. Stuff happened in my life that was out of my control. I did not choose to severely injure my back. And I want to emphasize that even though you can have these kinds of out of your control shifts, maybe the COVID-2 shows up or COVID-20, whatever shows up, like things can happen in your life that take you off the idea of a ladder, and you can still find happiness and success. So even if bad things happen, or even if you take a job that you're not initially excited about, that doesn't have to make a difference to how your career ends up. That's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is you can make whatever decisions you like right now, but things might change and that can still be fine. Reason number 2 is that I wanted to emphasize this 3-year period of skill building. As an editor and as a freelance consulting editor, I am a service provider. And if you want to be a service provider or you want to be a solo consultant of any type, editor or not, you want to work on your own as a service provider, then you have to be excellent at what you do. In this 3-year period, I already had a PhD in poetry. You might think that that would be good enough to know how to read and edit stuff, but it wasn't. I needed to spend a lot of time acquiring specific skills. I would not have got to this point if I hadn't had those 3 years of skill building. I certainly wouldn't have got to this income where, it's October 23rd or 24th today. It's 23rd. So 2025, I have already earned more income than I did in 2024 and 2021 combined. And the year's not over yet. And I needed this period of focused, self-driven professional development and skill building and practice in order to get to my current position. If you're curious, this is part of what the education section of my CV looks like. These are some of the many courses I took. What's not listed here is all of the books that I read, books like these. I don't necessarily recommend all of these courses. I don't think all of them were taught well, but if you want to get into editing, I think this kind of self-directed professional development is necessary to be great at that work. to get the foundational skills and training and understanding that you might need. This means that I kind of already accidentally segued into our last section, which is my recommendations for you if you want to get into editing or some other kind of freelance solo consulting or service providing. So I recommend that you find some kind of professional development path for you. Come up with your own version of this slide. I'm not recommending these specific courses. I'm recommending you do the work to find the best courses for you. Crucially, I personally did not pay for a lot of these courses. Because I was employed 4 days a week at a university, universities have pretty decent benefits for many of their staff. And when you get in a job, when you get employment, not entrepreneurship, you can negotiate for a couple $1,000s of professional development funding. And so the costs of a lot of these courses, any one course might have been $500. A lot of that cost was paid by my employer. So recommendation number one is come up with your own professional development path. You don't have to do a certificate. You don't have to do a degree. You need to learn the skills that you want to charge money for. I still read a lot of books. I spend a lot of time continuing to try to improve and refine my skills. Recommendation number two, you saw this already, do informational interviews. This is a form of research. Meet people online or in person who do the kind of work you want to do. Talk to them. Go into those conversations very strategically so that you demonstrate respect for their time, but you also get the most out of those conversations. So I recommend you take a screenshot of this article and Google it later. Recommendation number three, join a professional association and volunteer for it. My primary professional affiliation is Editors Canada. This professional association, and indeed most professional associations, have a student membership rate. I think that Editors Canada's student membership rate is around $50 a year. In my opinion, it's only worth paying to join a professional association if you are actively involved in that professional association. I do not see the value in paying Editors Canada $50 and then passively absorbing some information as it comes across. I instead recommend using the professional association to ensure that your peers and colleagues know who you are and what you do. I've given you a screenshot of a blog post on my website called Getting Involved with Your Professional Association, Why and How, featuring Crystal Shelley. I'm assuming that if you were interested in finding that article, you have already taken a screenshot and will Google it later. By the way, my website has a whole section called Advice. You can see it there in the top left. Under the advice section, there's a subsection that's called On Freelancing. There's another subsection called Editor Profiles. I would encourage you to explore these things if they interest you. I have not given you the URLs because another one of my recommendations is that you demonstrate initiative and do your own research. So you can probably quite easily figure out what my website's URL is. And yeah, initiative is another thing that I recommend. I was trying to figure out how to close my introduction talk, and I really struggled with figuring out like what's my last words going to be before we open the Q&A. So instead of saying the last words myself, I decided to recommend these three books. These books are books that I have personally found very valuable. The one on the far right is called How Clients Buy, a Practical Guide to Business Development for Consulting and Professional Services. This book offers a nice 7-step framework for understanding how marketing for expert service providers differs from marketing for products. Most of the entrepreneurship that we hear about, and indeed, if you try to randomly Google around to learn more about effective marketing practices, you're going to learn about people who sell products. And consulting and professional services, service providers are experts who do not sell products. We sell services. Marketing is different. It's a good resource. The two other books, Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey and 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. These are books that I would put in the broad genre of anti-hustle. These are books that resist hustle culture and the idea that you need to be a productive member of capitalist society in order to be a good person or have a good life. Personally, I don't, one of the things that I don't believe in is work-life balance. For me, there's very little separation from my work and my life. I work at home, and I bring my personal values to my business. I bring my political beliefs into my work. So I wanted to offer you two books that I found very personally useful and helpful. And these are books that informed my business to the extent that they informed my life. And my final recommendation is Star Trek: The Next Generation, the one from the 90s, the one with Captain Picard. It's a good show if you are mentally and physically unwell, but skip the first season because that season is dumb. Just start on season 2. That is my final recommendation. Do you have any questions for me?
That was great. Thank you so much. Before we jump, and I have a number of questions over in the Q&A, we will get into them right away. I have my own questions, but something that I wanted to highlight, and I really appreciate you saying that. First of all, like, I've made a note. We were going to send all of the information presented in the email, and then you are, do your own research. I'm crossing it out, right? So you are not going to get this information. Do your due diligence, search for it yourself, okay? So
Uh,
what I
I want
love,
to I want to interrupt and say it's so easily findable. My URL for my website is under my name. I think it'll show up on the recording. Everything is
yeah,
very easy to
yeah.
find.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one, 100%. What I love to hear, what, like really from my perspective is when we speak about entrepreneurship and employment as a contrast, there is always a job security popping up, right? And I was always like, it is a bubble, it is a myth because, you don't know, like, you can be terminated at any given moment for whatever reason, right? And somebody else's decision. And I'm so happy you brought it in. And it was very interesting to hear, about taking controls of your life, right? I will probably want to have a discussion with you about work-life balance. uh, I will be with you. I do enjoy what I personally do, and there is a very blurry line, so I do not have it. It was great to hear from you that somebody else thinking that it is a myth. So we'll have a conversation. But I would like to. I will read the questions like to you, right, and then we will go. So first question probably going to be super fast. What is the time tracking software that you are using?
The time tracking software is called Toggle, Toggl. Um, I used the free version for many, many years, and I definitely recommend time tracking for almost everyone, I think, whether you're a student, whether you're employed, or whether you're an entrepreneur. I was resistant to it for a long time because it felt like it would be extra work, but it's for someone like me, it's very good data to collect about yourself. And so I recommend any time tracking software. The one I use is Toggle.
Yeah, I use Toggle myself too. It's a great tool, available on all of the platforms, very user friendly. So yeah, that's great. Next question, and I had it in my list as well. Do you think AI tools are changing how academic editors work? Has it affected your work at all?
I think the parallel here is email. Email revolutionized how everybody does their job. email made some parts of our working lives a lot easier. Somebody can email me a document to edit. That's wonderful. It's very quick. It also made a lot of our working lives harder. I spend a lot more time processing emails than I would have if people were sending me physical letters that cost them time and money to send. I think of AI as the same way. I don't see AI replacing my job because for a number of reasons, I don't see AI replacing my job. For example, a lot of the faculty members I support are not interested in having their confidential data being sent to Silicon Valley, and also don't trust the privacy statements that are put out by some AI companies. I'm thinking Microsoft Copilot, I'm thinking of Claude.ai, which give you options to say, don't share your data. Some people don't believe that. And so there's a skepticism of AI. There's AI's tendency to push towards the norm or average, and to do a good research grant article, you cannot be average. You must be above average. There are cool AI tools that are coming into emergence now that are really interesting and good. There's a tool, potentially good, let's say. There's a tool out of Western University that is an AI tool that was fed a corpus of negative responses that grant applications could get. And so you put your grant application to it, and it vomits out a million criticisms. And then you have to decide which criticisms are legitimate and which ones are BS. And so that's a great, wonderful tool to have. It is doing something that I personally cannot do. It is making grant applications better. It's bringing about more work in the same way that, in my opinion, email gave us all more work. I do believe that there are roles that AI is either currently replacing, has already replaced, or will replace soon. Naively, I don't think my own role is one of them.
Great, thank you so for that. The next question that we have is, was there a specific moment or project that made you realize this is what I want to do?
Was there a specific moment or project that was like a light bulb for me? I don't think so. I think it was the informational interviews. So I think I decided that I wanted to edit research grants before I even learned about the shrimp on the treadmill, before I really understood the process, because I did a lot of informational interviews, and sometimes I asked unusual questions that were like pseudo personal, like what's your least favorite part of your job? That's a very individual question, but those informational interviews gave me a lot of information. Unsurprisingly, that's what they're for. And when I looked through that data that I collected, when I analyzed the data, and when I thought about how I could apply it to my own life, I think the moment was talking to one specific grants facilitator who worked at UBC, where I ended up working. His name's Robert. And I was talking about the kinds of questions I used to ask in grad school. And when I used to read poems, my friends, my peers, my fellow students used to ask questions, used to read books and ask questions like, what is it to be human? What does time mean? And I would ask questions like, what is happening with this comma on page 67? This is a very interesting comma that I did not expect. And so when I talked to people in informational interviews, I was trying to ask questions that would help me to figure out, are they a what is it to be human person, or is this an interesting comma person? And a lot of the people who I talked to were like me. And so I thought it would be a good fit for who I am.
Okay, thank you. That's a great answer. Next one is, what advice would you give to someone who loves language but isn't sure how to turn this passion into a career?
Yeah, I mean, I can only share the things that I did. And the things that I did were the informational interviews, and then just committing to lifelong learning, committing to ongoing professional development, ongoing exploration. There's a book that I often recommend that's called Designing Your Life. Designing Your Life, the authors' names are Burnett and Evans. And some people hate this book because they think it's too self-helpy. I see it as a book that allows you to collect data on yourself and better understand what you personally, as an individual, know and like. So I like teaching, I like talking to people, I like sharing what I know. I'm obviously enjoying that kind of stuff, but I hate grading. I hate assessing and evaluating people's documents in a way that's like, yeah, giving them a value, giving them a number. I don't enjoy that. It takes all of my energy, it takes all of my attention. I'm exhausted. So I didn't know that about myself until I worked through some of the exercises in the book, Designing Your Life. And so I found that really powerful information for me to have. So yeah, I recommend talking to people, committing to ongoing professional development, and doing some of the exercises in this specific book. The book was maybe 10 years old, maybe more. It was part of a trendy movement called design thinking. I maybe started part of that movement. There were a bunch of books that were published after it, like Designing Your Work Life, the new Designing Your Work Life, post-COVID. I think the original is fine. It's easy to get from the library. If you read it and you don't like how it's written because you find it too self-helpy, I encourage you to suspend that sentiment and simply try out some of the exercises. These are the things that helped me when I was trying to figure out how to turn a love of literature into something that pays for housing.
Thank you for that. And another great recommendation for a book. It is expected. Next question is, was it difficult to transition from being a literature scholar to running a service-based business?
Um, I mean, that time in my life was definitely a very difficult time. It was the worst 2 years of my life. I don't know how much of that was the career transition and how much was everything else that was going on in my physical and mental health. Um, I do think that academic training, especially in the humanities, which is my background, academic training in the humanities brings with it a lot of implicit assumptions and implicit values. And I think a lot of people believe that running a business, a private business that is not like a social impact business, I'm not doing this job to make the world a better place. That's a nice thing that might happen sometimes when we learn more about shrimp, if I help the shrimp researcher to get the money. But mostly I do this job because I need to pay for expensive housing and this roof. And so there are a lot of people in the humanities that say, oh, you are therefore invested in a system that is detrimental to a lot of people, that is inequitable and is unjust. I think that criticism is fair. I also believe that entrepreneurship is a tool, it's an approach, it's a method. Entrepreneurship itself doesn't necessarily mean neoliberalism, doesn't mean I invest in capitalism. I am able to apply my personal and political values in my work. One of my values is non-exploitation. So I have a virtual assistant who lives in India. Would be very easy to pay her a very low salary. I pay her a good salary because she's great at her work and she's a human being who deserves a good salary. So the point I'm trying to make is having an academic background, especially my specific academic background, can make you really judgy about entrepreneurs. And I have learned to suspend some of those judgments, even though I still say negative things about Silicon Valley.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And we have a couple of more, and then probably we'll call it a day. I really want to be mindful of your time. I can keep going and going and going. I'm really enjoying the conversation. So we will cut it off when when the time comes. So how do you balance the business side of editing, pricing clients, scalability with the craft side, language, precision, mentorship?
Um, I admit that most of the professional development that I personally do is on the craft side. And I suspect that some parts of my business would run better if I did more professional development on the business side. For example, a very easy business process improvement in my business would be having templates that I use when people email me and say, hello, I am interested in learning more about the editing services you provide. It would be a smart idea to have set answers to that question. I write a new response every single time. It is inefficient. It's not a recommended practice. So I think the balance that I strike is that I strongly favor the craft side. And as a result, there are some inefficiencies and inefficiencies in my processes and indeed gaps in my processes that have been detrimental to my business. As another example, I've been doing editing of research grants for almost 10 years. I have no idea what the total dollar figure of all the successful grants that I've brought in has been. I don't know what my percentage success rate is. I don't know what the total amount I've charged is, how that corresponds to the amount I've brought in, how that corresponds to the amount that I've charged. This is all data that people would be interested in that would be good for my business if I tracked. It's kind of whatevs. Like one of the things that's really nice about being your own boss is you get to choose which advice you're going to follow. I know that your program, Ben, runs a lot of the Side Hustle School and this sort of venture program. And I would encourage people to register in those, attend those, learn from them, and then decide when I'm my own boss, which of those practices do I want to invest in and to do and to enact, and which ones do I want to put aside? Even though they're probably good advice, I just choose not to do it because I'm the boss.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Uh, what motivates you to keep doing this work when the projects get tough or repetitive?
Yeah, what motivates me? I think it's very obvious that I really enjoy my work. I really enjoy working a lot on research grant applications. It turns out that there's a part of my personality that really enjoys working with people under stress to help them to achieve their goals, even though they're under a lot of stress. It's possible that this is related to the 2 years of, back injury and depression and all that burnout and all that stuff. But I really like working with professors who are super ambitious, super smart, super hardworking, and super pressed for time and insufficiently resourced and insufficiently paid, um, and overworked. And they have these ambitions of putting shrimp on treadmills, and I want them to get that shrimp in the treadmill. And I have a lot of my confidence in my abilities to help them to do that. And so, yeah, there are definitely parts of my job that are really annoying when clients make choices that I would not make. And when they send me a lot of emails and the email subject line is just urgent, just the word urgent with no other information. It happened yesterday. And so, of course, there are things that I don't like that are annoying, but I do really like helping smart people to do great work. And so I suppose it's that motivates me.
Mhm. That's a great answer. I can totally, as a consultant myself, I can totally relate to that one, especially to the point when they do the wrong choices and you're like, no. But so awesome. So you know what, like I would like to close it with the last question, which I think an important one, and I have it in my list as well. And I'm glad whoever put the question over there is asked it. So if I want to do informative interview, then how it's gonna benefit me, like asking other person what you like in your job and what you don't like. Please explain and how to do it. Like,
Mhm.
is there any platform to do such interview?
I didn't use a platform. I just emailed people. So I found people who had interesting job titles. I Googled them to see if there's anything more I could learn about them. And I emailed them. I recommend emailing rather than using LinkedIn messaging because a lot of people don't check their LinkedIn messages. The benefit for me personally was that I gained enough information that when I wrote my first job application for the first job that I was like, that's the job I want, I got the interview and I destroyed the interview. I did excellently in the interview. I could answer every single question they had because I had already asked somebody else that question 6 months before. So, for example, one of the questions that I got was like, oh, what would you do in a situation where you have too much work, you have too many grants, and one grant looks like it's going to be very successful, one grant you're not sure, and one grant looks unsuccessful. How would you decide which one you're going to spend the most time on? When I answered that question, I said, well, I've never been in that situation, but I talked to this dude named Robert. He works in that place, and here's what he does. And so I'd probably follow that process. And they were like, yep, that's a great process. We support them. So I think a lot of people talk about informational interviews because they say it's secretly going to get you a job. Like you have to network in order to secretly get a job because 80% of the jobs are never advertised and these people know where jobs are advertised and yada, yada, yada. Maybe that happens for some people. It's not what happened for me. What happened for me was that information became powerful and I could apply it to very ease. Like it's a difficult job market right now if you're seeking employment. It's historically very difficult. And I walked into a job for which I had very little experience because I did a lot of very good research with people who had experience and expertise.
Thank you so much. It's an excellent excellent advice, and I do believe it is applicable to everyone in every industry. So for the last question over there, if you are still in BC, once again, we will not answer it because everything that you have is posted out there, so you will be able to find it if you put a little bit effort into searching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was an amazing opportunity to learn from you and to hear, like, you know, about your experiences. And I believe it is going to be one of these uh, key resources or key talks in our resources pages, which I invite everyone to check. Uh, I will definitely go back and listen to the recording, and I don't do it with most of them, to be honest with you, because I do have the good memory. But this one is going to be on this list. Thank you so much.
Can I say one last closing word?
Sure.
I always go over time. I'm going to try to end on time. Ben, I reached out to you because I read about how you do things at your entrepreneurship center, and I liked and respected your approach. And if anything that I've said to the audience today is interesting to you, please know that I chose this institution and Ben specifically to speak to, and I'm not giving this talk to anyone else. And so what I'm trying to communicate is like, if any of you actually are interested in becoming a service provider or consultant or academic editor, I would be very happy to continue this kind of conversation, but only with the folks who have taken the initiative, who followed some of the advice already, who can demonstrate to me that their recommendations, at least maybe one of them, have been helpful. So
Mhm.
closing
Thank
word.
you so much, and thank you so much. And I will 100% agree with you. We want people that are taking action. once again, it was wonderful. I'm eternally grateful for your time today, and we will continue conversation. I have a couple of things that I would love to continue to chat to today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest
Thank
of your
you.
day. Bye.
Yeah, bye bye.